To our first story now, economist and professor of finance at the University of Ghana Business School, Godfred Alufo Bopkin, says the president's promise to construct 88 new district hospitals within a year is impossible. Professor Bopkin believes the effect of COVID-19 on the economy will make the promise unrealistic. Now, according to him, the international capital market is practically on hold, and it will be difficult for government to source any funds from there.
Are we in a position to absorb such massive cost, especially particularly from one sector, health? Because it's not the only sector that is in crisis. It's not only health. We are in economic crisis, but of course there are linkages also. So pre-pandemic, we were living from hand to mouth. Whatever we were collecting by way of tax revenue, essentially, it was just wages and interest payments. Even with that one, we were not able to cover it appropriately. So, and even then when you add statutory transfers and all of that, then you realize that we were really in a fix. But of course, these are extraordinary times, and extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. But in the midst of that, I believe we still have to be measured the way we approach this. Of course, there's conventional wisdom in saying that every district should have hospital, every regional capital should have a hospital of a certain status. We cannot debate that. I mean, it's a necessity. It's not a luxury. Perhaps we may have to do it maybe in phases. Are we going to load all of that onto the public debt stock immediately or this year? Maybe that is going to be very, very challenging. When I say so, because having a hospital and not having access to that hospital by way of good road infrastructure is also a problem. Having that and not having the soft infrastructure in place is still going to be a problem. So I believe that government would have the benefit of maybe better data and financing arrangement. That is fine. So they will be looking at this comprehensively rather than just saying that we want to have just fiscal buildings here or there and all of that. That said, I believe that there are existing hospitals, some contracts that have been signed for upgrade of certain hospitals like you were talking about. Certainly, we don't need to do it in a way of, let's say, in a substitution form. It has to be complementary. We still have to prioritize completion of existing hospitals, regardless of which government started it. Once it's for the common good, then it doesn't matter who started it. What is important is that we have to be able to maximize the use of our limited resources. So we need to keep an eye on that. It's very, very important. So, but look at it this way. So we are in crisis moment. In crisis moment, usually the usual discussion of debt to GDP ratio may not carry that much economic value now. So government may be thinking of taking advantage of that and then maybe ignore the usual fiscal discipline and tight financing arrangement and all of that and say, look, we need to do the needful. And for that reason, we should be prepared to borrow. Another way of doing it, this is certainly going to increase our fiscal deficit. Already, the finance minister, when he made a statement in Parliament on the 30th of March, told us the impact of the pandemic in terms of how it's going to also affect our revenue stream, for which reason our fiscal deficit increased from the earlier, what we had in the 2020 budget, 18.9 billion to 30.2 billion. So already that takes us completely above the 5% threshold. But of course, in times like this, you can't hold the government accountable for that threshold because these are extraordinary times. And the Fiscal Responsibility Act makes room for that as well. Great. So this is going to increase the deficit. The next question will be, and I believe you were talking about it earlier, how are we going to finance this? Where will the money come from? Because the international capital market is practically on hold. It's going to be very difficult. So you look at it from financing it from your domestic market, but you need to keep an eye on the private sector as well because they are also affected. So if you want to finance all of that from the domestic market, it's going to crowd out the private sector rather than crowding them in. Of course, government can borrow at any rate, but the private sector borrowing is sensitive to interest rates. So you need to keep an eye and also preserving domestic capital for the private sector. So because they also play a critical role in the economic recovery we are all hoping we can get. So of course, like we have said before, it may be easier for government to stabilize the economy, but full recovery to maybe to pre-pandemic level, it's not going to be easy. It will take us probably more than 3 years.
But financial analyst Sidney Casely-Hayford said there are a number of options on the international market. He's also predicting a situation where developing economies will benefit from debt cancellation to mitigate the impact of the pandemic.
To be a lot more support to developing economies for us to be able to build the infrastructure. However, don't forget that the international community itself is struggling a little at this stage. How soon the whole world can come out of the crisis in which we are in and be able to developing economies is a different matter. I think I have heard somewhere along the line that quite a bit of the debt that the developing economies are keeping is going to be forgiven, and there will be the opportunity to free up some space to be able to do all of this. But see, we are building a case on inadequate information. The president did not say where he was going to source from, and I find it very difficult also when we don't have any idea of how much each of the hospitals will cost to build. It's a tough discussion to have because the information is really not available. He hasn't said very clearly how much he's going to spend to build each hospital. So it's difficult to quantify and to make any assessment on how much debt will build up because of this. But there's a growing economy. Ours is to look at what our needs are. Do we need 88 new hospitals? I would say we do. What type of hospitals should they be? We haven't said yet. If they are going to be regional hospitals to cater for a national development, that's a different matter. But if they are going to be district hospitals and the standard to which they will be developed is not very high, and therefore it will not cost too much to build, then the analysis will be different. At this stage, it's difficult to make any conclusion just based on what he said